Hello there, my name is Ismail. Welcome to Top Channel. In this video, we're going to be learning After Effects in one video. In this video, I'm going to be using After Effects CC, but the steps I'm going to show you are applicable in any version of After Effects, at least from After Effects CS3 and above. That is CS4, CS5, CS6, 7, CC 2015 and CC 2017. And I'm sure the steps I'll be showing you are applicable to any later versions released. This is because the tools or steps I'll be showing you are the core parts of After Effects, and they have been around from After Effects CS3 up to now. So I'm sure they'll also be kept for any later versions released. So yeah, let's get started. So the first thing you see when you open up After Effects is this welcome screen. It may look different depending on the version of After Effects you're using, but the core principle is the same. So you get a list of recent projects you have worked on. You can see last opened and the name of the project. You can see my naming convention is not the best, and you should always make sure to name your projects a name that you can remember, not like me here. I keep my names simple like this because most of the times when I'm working on a project, I finish it the same day I start it. So, but if you're planning on coming back to the project sometime later, make sure to name it a name that you can remember. So yeah, the other thing you get is a link to create a new project. You have open a project you have worked on. You also have an option to create a new team project. We'll look at this in later parts of the video after we have understood the core parts of After Effects. So you also have a help button here, and then you have a close out button. So the help button just gets you to the menu, to the After Effects menu if you want to look at that. So yeah, let's create a new project. So to create a new project, you can click on this new project link, or just close out of that, and then you can go under file, new project. But before we create a new project, let's look at the setup we have here. So After Effects is divided in two different sets depending on what you're working on. So if you go under window in the navigation menu, you can see a list of workspaces you have here. You have animation. That's if you're working on animation mostly. You can go to the animation workspace, and then you will get access to the different panels. So the panels are these tabs you see here. Let me get my pen tool. So the panels are these different tabs you see. You have the projects tab, we have the composition tab, we have the tools panel here. You have the info and preview tab, you have the timeline. So the different workspaces just give you access to the different sets of panels. So if you're working on animation, you can go to the animation workspace, and you will get access to these different panels. If you're working on if you're working on effects, you can go to that and you will see different panels. You can see the effects panel, control panel here, and the effects and presets panel. That was not available in the animations workspace. If you're working on say let's see motion tracking, you can go to that and you get the motion tracking panels. So yeah, depending on what you're working on, you can choose different setups. I like working in the standard or essentials. I like working in the essentials or standards workspace. So let's just go to that, and you can still change the panels if you want. So let's say you want the effects panel, you can go under window and you'll see a list of all panels available. So if you want the effects panel, you can find it here. Let's see, where was it? Effects and control. So you can see it there. It is there. So you can also move it around. Say you want it to be, let's say, to the side of the screen. You can just drag that panel until you see these polygon highlights, and then you can drop it to any section of the screen you want. So I put it there. So if you want maybe to move this projects panel again to the same panel here, you can see we have it now there. So if you want to reset the workspace to the default workspace, you can go under window, workspace, reset workspace, and now you'll be reverted to the original workspace you're working in. So you also have some shortcuts here. I'm sure they were not available in CS6 and below. but in CSC and CC they have added these shortcuts that are just shortcuts to go into these steps here. So yeah, you can use them if you're using CC. So yeah, let's go back to the standard workspace and get started. So again, to create a new project, you could just go under File. Let me maximize this. Go under File, New, New. Just go under File, New, New Project. And then to save the project, go under File, Save As. And then you can name the project whatever you want. I'll just name this Project 1. Make sure to name the project a name that you can remember, otherwise you will have projects mixed up. And yeah, so save. And now to start working, we need a new composition. So to create a new composition, you can go under the navigation menu, click composition, and then click new composition. Or you can right click in the projects panel, click new, and then click new composition. Or you can click on this icon here to bring up the composition settings. Whenever you go to new composition, it will also bring up the composition settings, or if you click here, you can get the composition settings as well. You can name the composition what you want. I'll just leave it as composition 1, and you can select a preset, which is just a variation of this different settings here. You can see we are in the NTSC DV settings, and so these are the settings for that presets. If we change it to, let's say, HDV 1080, you can see all the settings here change, because the presets are just variations of the settings here. So let's use a 720 preset. Make sure it's HDTV. Let's see if we have that. Yeah, let's get this. So what you should note here is DV is any resolution below 1280, and HDV is just a resolution above 1280. So let's go with 720 by 1280, and you can change the aspect ratio if you want, but I like keeping it at the default. You can also change the frame rate. I will leave it at 25, but you can choose between the different frame rates in the list, or you can add a custom frame rate you want here. I'll just use, let me try 7. So the maximum is 99, so let's just keep it at 60 frames per second. You can also change the resolution, half or third, or anything you want. You can change the time rate or duration of the composition and everything. You also have other tabs here, the advanced and 3D render, but because this is a basic tutorial, let me just keep to the basic tab. So any settings you see here can be changed later, so let's not dwell on them. So let's click OK, and now we have a new composition. You can zoom in on the composition using the middle mouse button, so you can see the scroll button on your mouse. You can also use this drop down here to fit screen at 6%. Let's just keep it as 6%, and yeah. So we have the timeline here. It's where we'll have all the layers we are working with. So we have created a composition, but if you have a video clip you want to import in the composition, you can just right click in the projects panel and then click on import, and then click file, import file, and then you can navigate to the clip you want to import. I'll just go to here, and let me get this, and then click import. So you can see we have the composition here. We have the composition, and we have the video clip we want to import. So you can see our composition has a different frame rate from our clip. So if we want to match the composition to match our clip setting, you can right click in the timeline area, and then you get this composition settings option, and you can access the composition settings again. So you can click on the video clip, so that we have the video clip information here, and then right click in the composition to get the composition settings, and now we can try to match the settings we have here, to the clip settings we have here. So the clip is about 59 seconds, and we can change 59 seconds, and we can change it here. So this one is about 600 and 59 seconds with a frame rate of 23 frames per 23.9, something like that, and then click OK. Let's see. So you see, but still we have some difference in the time frame. So the easiest way to match the composition settings to your clip settings, you can just drag the clip you want to use into, or the footage you want to use into this new composition icon. So it will create a new composition that matches exactly your clip settings. So you can see the frame rate and the dimensions are the same now. Now we can delete this composition one we created earlier, and so we can work in this composition. You can see even the time frame matches. So you see the time frame matches our footage, which is about 59 seconds, but I only want to use about 10 seconds. So you can use this work area indicator to trim the part of the clip you want to use. Say we want our clip to start from here and then end from there. You can use B to mark the start of the work area and E to mark the end of the work area. Now you can right click on the and then you can click on the work area and click trim comb to work area. So just we have that only. Let me delete this clip and import an image instead. So you can also double click in the projects panel to import anything. So let's get let's view thumbnails, large thumbnails. Let's get this and this. So you can hold down Control to open up, to select multiple selections and then import. Let's drag this into a new folder so that we have an organized setup. And yeah, so let's drag this image here into the composition. You can see when you drag an image into the composition, it creates a new layer, and now you can scale that layer. If we zoom in a bit, zoom out a bit, we can scale that layer. You can see by dragging the control points. But you see, we're not getting a uniform scale. So to have a uniform scale, you can hold down Shift while you scale, and your layer will be scaled uniformly. So let's look at the tools panel. We have looked at, so the first tool we have is the selection tool, and you can use it to select multiple layers, to select layers. So if we have this layer, let's drag it there to have it there. You can use it to select between different layers. You can just select. Let's see. Now we have the pan hand tool. It just uses to pan around the work area. We have the zoom tool. So if you drag, you can zoom in to a point, to a selected point. If you hold down Alt while you zoom, it zooms out. We have the rotation tool. If you select any layer and select the rotation tool, you can rotate that layer. Let's make sure that we're selecting the right layer. You can rotate that layer. The other tools we will look at later. Let's look at the pen tool, the type tool. You can use this to write to write text. So car advert, the new breed of cars. And when you use the type tool, you will have the character panel open up, and you can select, you can change the font. Yes, let's select. You can change the color of the text. You can change the font size, the kerning or spacing between different characters. You can even change the alignment left. Let me break this into 2 lines so that we can see this. The new breed of cars. Let's increase the font size of this, and let's change the font to, let's see what else, what do we have? So let's have that like that, and then change this maybe to Roboto. Oh, well, so we can increase the spacing of each character. I can change the alignment from left align, center align to right align. Let's keep it to right and maybe put it there. Again, to scale, you can scale it directly with the control points, or you can, if you go to the layer, you can click on this arrow here to expand that layer to bring up the layer options. You can see the text layer has this text layer options, but before we go to that, let's go to the transform options. And you can see the first options we have is the anchor point. This is just the pivot point for the rotation, scale, and the position point. So if we change the anchor point to say there, and we try our scaling, you can see now the layer is being scaled from that point. If we rotate, you can see it acts as the pivot point for the rotation. Let's reset. See, before it was scaling from that point there, and like that in the center. But if you can also use this tool here, which is the pan behind tool. You can move that anchor point with that tool to any position you want. So let's move it to the top right, and now if we rotate using the rotation tool, you can see the rotation is from that anchor point. Let's reset. Again, we can scale from that. You have the opacity of that layer, and let's collapse this again, and let's reset this layer, so that is our background. It gets the same transformation options and the anchor point, the position, the scale. Let's scale it to fit our screen, and yeah. So from there, if you have a transparent background, a transparent logo, so you see our logo here, but it has this black background we don't want. If you had it with transparency, if it was a PNG with transparency, you can just drop it there, and that black background won't be there. Let me see if I have a transparent logo here. Let's see if I get this. I think this has a white background as well. So if it had transparency instead of a white background, it will just drop there. But we can remove that white background or black background by using some few tricks. So if you click on toggle switches, you can toggle between switches, which are these, and modes or blending modes. So blending modes just change how each layer blends in to other layers. So if we select this this logo layer, MTV News layer, we can go, if you switch between if you toggle between switches and modes to access the blending modes, or if you click on this, let me see, if you click on this this layer here, you will have both the modes and the switches, but it will reduce your timeline space. So that's why you have this toggle switches here. So let's just use that, and you can change between blending modes. So we have the normal mode, we have the dissolve. Let's zoom in a bit so that you can see what is going on. You can see we have dissolve. So normal was like this, straight edges, and we have dissolve, dancing dissolve. We have darken, we have multiply. So you can change between different modes until you find a blending mode that will remove the black background while keeping the white background. So for that, I know the multiply will work best. So if we go to multiply, maybe the screen, and yeah, you can see we don't have the white background anymore. So we can also do it on this. So for this, I know that the multiply will work best. but you see now the other colors on the layers are also blending in with our background with other layers. So let's go back to normal, and we can look at effects now. We can look at effects in After Effects that will help us remove this background. So if you go under Window, you can find the effects and control panel to access the effects control. And now if we go under Window and look for effects and presets, we can bring up the effects and presets panel, or you can go under Window, Workspace, and change to the effects workspace. But I want to keep it, I want to work in the standard workspace, so that's why I'm bringing up those different panels. So if we search in the effects panel for keying, so if you select the layer and go under the navigation menu and find the effects, make sure that you have the layer selected and go under effects, you can find a list of effects categorized in different categories. So we have 3D, we have audio, we have blurs, we have keying. So what we want is to key out this white background, so that we are only left with the logo. So we can go under effects and find the keying category to find a key tool we can use. So let's try the linear color key and sample the white. You can see it has removed the white. So this is how you key out a green screen footage if you have green screen footage. And yeah, let's reduce the tolerance, increase the tolerance, maybe even increase the softness a bit. So yeah, we have that. Maybe we can just scale it down. Transform scale. Scale. You see, when we added the linear key, we also got this other option here for the effects. And if we delete, let me just cut it out. You can see that goes out. So if we paste it back, you can see we get that effect. So each type of layer gets different options. So you see, this is an image layer and it has the transform layer. But if we go to the text layer, we have a text layer. We have the text layer option that is not available for the image layer. So these are not the only layer types we have in After Effects. So if we let's go to the projects panel. So you can scroll between these different projects because you can see because this effects control panel name is too long, the projects panel is hidden. So you can scroll using your middle mouse button to reveal that projects panel. So let's create a new project. Let's just click here to create a new composition, and let's call this composition 2 and look at different layers. So you can have multiple multiple compositions in one project. So we have created projects. We have created composition 2, and we still have composition 1, the first composition we created here in the timeline, and you can switch between different compositions by just clicking on the name, or you can just double click on the composition name here to go to that composition. So let's look at different types of layers in After Effects. So the first layer we have is a text layer, and this you just write text. If you expand that text layer here, you can see we have a few options. We have the text layer options and we have the transformation options. You also have these character settings. We have already looked at them, and yeah, so that's the first layer. We'll look at the text options later. So let's collapse this and let's look at a different layer. So we also, if you go under layer, you can look at the different types of layer here. We have the text layer, we have the solid layer. So if we click on the solid layer, we get these solid layer settings. We have the dimensions, we have the units, aspect ratio, make composition size. So just leave the settings to the default. You can also change the color if you want. Let's just keep it this get that. Click OK, and this is just a solid color layer, and if we expand, it only gets the transform options. So you can scale, rotate, change the opacity and everything. Let's reset that. Maybe if you want to turn it off, you can just switch it off like that. So you can move. So you see, we added this layer, and now it's on top of our text layer. So if we want to bring the text layer on top of that layer, we can just move it under that text layer in the layers panel. So you can see now we have that there. So another layer we can look at, if we go under layer, we can go and we can find, we look at the light and camera layers after, but we also have the null layer. This is just an empty layer. It's used in parenting and other things. So let's look at maybe we look at that in a different part. So that is just a simple empty layer, as the name says it, null layer. Another layer we can look at is let's see a shape layer. So this is just an empty layer that you can use to draw different shapes. So if we go under here, we can select different shapes. So if you drag on the shape layer here, you get a few options here. So we have the rectangle, we have the rounded rectangle, we have the ellipse tool, we have the polygon tool, we have the star tool. So if you can draw rectangles if you want. You can also switch to a rounded rectangle. You can also remember we are drawing all these shapes on the shape layer we created, and we also have an ellipse tool. So if you want to draw a perfect circle, you can just hold down shift to draw a perfect circle. You also get a polygon, a hexagon, let me see, a polygon tool. Also have a star tool. So these are all under the shape layer, and if we expand the shape layer, you can see all the shapes we drew are listed here, and you can select to get the select tool, and you can select each one. So each one also gets its own options. So you can see we have the fill option, the stroke option. If we let's zoom in a bit, you can see it has a white stroke, but we can change that to, let's see, green, and increase the opacity, the stroke. You can even decrease the opacity of the stroke. So you also have the fill, and you can change it to whatever you want. And let's see, so that's under the polygon star. You also have a polygon here, another polygon here. Let's go back to the polygon star and see the other options we have. If you go to the polygon path, you can change the points, the star points. We have 5 points now, but you can change them. Let's collapse that, and let's look at yeah, so you can go around and check the different options you have in the shape layers. So let's delete that. Let's look at what else can we look at? Let's look at masks. If we drop in this, scale it down. If you get the pen tool, when you have a layer selected, you can draw a mask for that layer. You can see as I'm drawing, I'm not getting the control points to control the different points. This is because I have Lotto Bezier turned on when I created this layer mask. So you see, a layer mask just masks out different parts of a layer. So if we expand this, let's delete this. So if we want to have the control points, make sure before you draw a layer mask, just uncheck the Lotto Bezier check, the Lotto Bezier option, so that you get those control points. So that's how masks work. Let's delete that. Let's delete that mask and look at how to make animation in After Effects. So to make an animation, if you expand any layer, every option you see or every attribute you see that has this stopwatch can be animated. So if you click, if we go to the position option attribute and we click on this stopwatch, it will activate animation for that option. So, and gives you access to these keyframes. So if we move, let's get this selection tool. If we move this layer here off screen and move the timeline indicator to about 5 seconds, while we have the position attribute activated for animation, we can create the motion, we can add motion to this layer by animating the position keyframes. So you can see, you can also move it up here, and you can see. So to play back, you can just hit the middle mouse, the space button. See, we have that. I can also add some rotation. So if we add some rotation here, so that's what we have. Let's see what else we can look at. Again, if you want to bring this text in front of the layer, you just drag it to the top, and you have that. So After Effects works like Photoshop, but it's more, it deals mostly with animation. So you also have layer styles in After Effects. So if you want to access layer styles, you can click on the layer or go under layer, and you will find, let's see where are the layer styles. You will get layer styles here. You see you have drop shadow. So it's loading here. You can see we have the shadow here, there, and if you expand the layer, you can find the layer styles there, and go to drop shadow. You can change the different settings. You can change the distance, you can change the spread, you can change the size. So if you have used Photoshop before, you can see the same options are available in After Effects, but the difference is that you can animate whatever options you have here. So let's see. You see my animation is a bit slow because I'm recording while I'm using After Effects. So I can change the preview resolution here and change it to about a quarter so that I have a faster preview, and you see that's what we have. So if you want to export in After Effects, you can go under File, and then Export, Add to Render Queue, and now you can export to where you want to export. So this was a quick tutorial on how to use After Effects, but I have a more detailed course on using After Effects. Let me show you a quick preview here. So in this course, I go into details on how to use After Effects. You can see if I play back here. So I go into details on how to animate in After Effects, and we make some pretty advanced animations. You can see we also look at 3D layers. Let me see. It's a 3-hour course, so there's a lot of information you might find interesting. That will be useful. We look at 3D layers. Let's see where the 3D layer. Let's go here. So we also look at 3D cameras and things like that. You can see how they operate, how to move them, how to animate them. Let's see. Also look at 3D lights, 3D shadows, things like that. We even make some cool animations here. Then we also, let's see. We also make a 3D ad. Let me show you. A cool ad for an e-commerce shop that shows off different apparels you might be selling in your say e-commerce website. And let me show you the final animation. So you see, I even show you how to add motion blur and the camera lens blur. So you see, when this person comes into the center of the screen, she comes into focus and everything else goes out of focus. And when she's off screen, the second girl comes into focus and everything else goes out of focus. You see. And you see the orientation of each layer is towards the camera. So I show you some tricks to maintain the orientation of any layer. So if let's go back to this layer. So if you try to make that kind of animation without using the trick I show you in this course, let's see. Where did I? So if you try to make the animation without that rotation animation without the trick I'll show you in this course, the layers will just rotate and and they will look as flat planes. But so I'll show you a trick how to maintain the orientation of each layer. And yeah. So we also look at other things. We also make let me see, another ad here for smartphones, and you can see, yeah. So if you found this video interesting, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I'll also leave a few links to the course if you are interested in that. And yeah, see you in the next video.